Welcome back to Big Boss Mare with Brandy Von Holten. Today I have a guest with me that I met with one of our chicks in the sticks. Her name is Liz Dingus. All right, so Liz actually came here with her daughter, and it is Bethany.
Right.
Bethany. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Chicks in the Sticks because I get to meet some amazing women with these. It's an all-inclusive women's event. All of the food's included. We have custom cakes brought in. We do shopping. We have a massage therapist. We do a painting class. They get a t-shirt. And, of course, it's called Chicks in the Sticks because we trail ride. So what made you decide you wanted to do Chicks in the Sticks?
Bethany's been wanting to come out and try out your ranch.
Okay.
And you had a cancellation, and I'm like, that's for me.
That's for you. Okay. So Bethany is one of 8 children that you have. Okay.
Correct.
So Bethany is actually, right now, she's in her mid-20s, and y'all are from a town called Richland, Missouri.
Correct.
So, but now that's not where you met your husband. You met your husband whenever you graduated high school from Garden City, Kansas or Missouri?
Kansas.
Now then, did he graduate high school from there also?
He was in Holcomb, Kansas, a small town outside of Garden City.
Okay. And you have been married for quite a while because...
34 years on Saturday.
34 years. Okay. So how old were you whenever you got married?
17.
17. Now then, before everybody was like, oh, she got married at 17, you didn't have your first kid until you were
19.
Okay, so a lot of people are going to be like, oh, we know why she got married. No.
Right? We had a lot of that.
Oh, I'm sure. I didn't get married till I was 24. So, and it seems like I waited, but it still seems so young now. 30 seems like a good time to get married.
It does.
Now. So, all right, you've been married, it'll be 34 years in just a few days.
Correct.
Now, whenever I have these Chicks in the Sticks, I get the opportunity to meet and really talk to these ladies. And we were on our way to go shopping and out to eat at a lady's name named Miss Mariella. Miss Mariella is Mennonite, and she allows us to have people come into her house. Well, we have to carpool. Because after COVID, I used to get limos and charter buses, but the prices got messed up after COVID, and it's not really worked into our current price set. So we carpool. So Liz rode with me with 2 other ladies. One lady from, I think she's from Missouri also, or maybe Kansas, but I think she's Missouri. Her name's Debbie. And then we rode with a lady from Oklahoma that's named Leslie. So we had a little bit of time in the car. Anyways, Liz tells me about how she used to homeschool. You homeschooled for a long time.
A long time, yeah.
You have the 8 children, and you've homeschooled all 8, but the last 2 are actually going to, right now they're 8 and 12 years old, and they're going to go to private school next year.
Yeah.
So, but she also shared with me, so that's... I want to give you props for homeschooling because you were homeschooling before homeschooling was cool because right now homeschool is exploding.
Right. There's a lot of good stuff out there now.
Oh, yeah. My husband and I actually we have dove into the homeschool world it's a business called Building with David where we actually send them a homeschool kit. We send them all of the wood and the materials, and then they build with David through video, and then I've wrote a curriculum for it. And I didn't know that you homeschooled until I did a tour of our ranch when you're here for Chicks in the Sticks, and then you're like, oh, this would be cool. You got somebody that I'll introduce you to. And I was like, that's great. And then you rode with me in the vehicle when we went shopping, and then I got to know even more about you. So then Liz shared with me that she's in college for the first time. Previously, I know you've been homeschooling, but you had finished high school and then you didn't go to college.
Correct. I've been a stay-at-home mom the whole entire time.
Stay-at-home mom, but before that, you actually had a hometown Sears store and you did a coffee shop for a little bit in there.
And my husband did all that.
Oh, he did.
I still stayed home with the children.
Oh, you stayed home. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever learn how to make any of those fancy coffees?
I did.
What's your favorite coffee to make?
Chocolate and caramel. We called it the mom drink.
Oh, the mom drink.
Yep. That was my drink.
Do you know, with our Chicks and the Sticks, we have like a coffee bar, and I tell them that I'm catching women. It's like it's women bait. I'm like, come here, ladies, I got some fancy coffee for you. And they're like, oh, look at this coffee bar. So
It's good.
Oh, yeah. But you also shared with me 2021. 2021 handed you your butt.
It did.
In a very... Okay, so 2021, you had 4 deaths in the family.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start with your...
In February, my mother-in-law passed away from dementia.
Okay.
And meanwhile, my mother was struggling with Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
So she finally passed away April 27th. So my mother-in-law was the end of February. My mother was April 27th. And then her funeral was May 7th. And on May 10th, we found out that my son had a very large tumor in his brain, and his surgery was May 18th.
So you found out about the tumor on May 10th, or May 7th?
May 7th.
May 7th.
No, May 10th. Yes, May 10th.
Okay, yeah, that was, found out about it on May 10th. Yeah, what was May 7th? That was...
My mother's funeral.
That was your mother's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
That, May 7th, is my father's birthday. Oh, yeah, so it's always like... I don't know, you get to have connections with people. Mm-hmm. So you just found, now this son of yours, he was 20 years old, and he's your 5th child out of 8, and his name is Avery. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So tell me how, okay, so Avery, y'all found out about this, then you had surgery pretty quickly.
May 18th.
May 18th. Mm-hmm. And then was he cancer-free?
We didn't know it was cancer. We were actually told it was probably not, but they went ahead and sent it out, and it came back 6 weeks later that it was cancer, and it was stage 4.
Stage 4,
and
okay.
So he had 33. They shipped him to St. Louis, Missouri, and he had 33 rounds of radiation because he had a trach and he was ventilated. He had to stay in the ICU.
Okay. So talk about... the loss of someone's mother, okay, and your mother-in-law. Were you close with your mother and your mother-in-law?
Not my mother-in-law, but my mother, yes.
Okay, and you didn't even have grieving time.
Well, with Alzheimer's, it's called the slow death.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of lost her probably 4 years earlier.
Okay.
She was not my mother the last 2 years.
Okay.
She was a little child that we had to take care of.
Oh,
so my grief for her was over a long period of time. Those last several months, we were just begging for her to go.
You know, and a lot of people think that death is a horrible thing. Death is welcome.
Yeah. Especially when they're miserable.
Yeah, when they're miserable and their quality of life is down, death can be your greatest ally, you know. So I'm very happy that part ended, but then...
But you're right. I did not have time to, process any of that. We went right into this. Right
into this. So in August, he was able to ring the bell?
He rang the bell August 12th. He came home shortly thereafter on a ventilator, and I was trained. We didn't have home care. His insurance said he either's going to have physical therapy, occupational therapy, because he couldn't walk. Mm-hmm. He was going to have all of those therapies, or you could have an in-home aid. And we wanted him to be the best he could. So I said, train me how to do it. I will do it.
Okay.
I will take care of my son. So I learned how to do the ventilator. I learned how to do trach changes. And
my grandmother had cancer of her voice box, and she actually had a trach. But it was a packing. We had to pack it with different things going forward. Like, I don't know. She wasn't able to eat.
Yeah, my son couldn't eat either.
Okay.
He was feeding tubed.
Feeding tube, yeah.
He lost his ability to eat, swallow, of course. Yeah, he never even could yawn. Isn't that funny? Wow. We would yawn, and he never could yawn.
Oh. She also had to have... it was like this plastic thing because I was young. Okay, so I'm pulling back from I'm in my 40s now, and this was before I was around 10 years old. But she had this thing she had put in her mouth, so then she could talk, but it was computer, but her mouth would move it enough that you could make out words. Was he able to talk?
Yeah, we would. Eventually he was able to talk over, even when he was on oxygen on his trach. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's called red cap, and he could talk through after that. His voice was really, really hard to understand.
Right. I know I was in college, I worked for a bank, and I was able to understand all of the electronic voices because of people losing different parts of their throat. And people were so happy whenever somebody was there that could understand them, or if they would struggle through it to understand them. Right. So he's cancer-free in August, so tell us what happened for the rest of that year in 2021.
Yeah, so he came home, and he stayed home until we were in and out of hospitals. And then in November, Bethany and I left the house that day to go pick up a horse. And we left him in the care of my daughter. She was 16 at the time. And she calls me and she goes, "Mom, he's outside. He's not breathing." So she did some CPR on him while the ambulance came, and we flew home. And I said, "I can't have him home anymore. He needs to be put into a rehab." So that was in November. It was November 9th. And so he went to the hospital because he started having seizures. And so he went to rehab. And then he one morning he had a really rough night in December 28th. And they said that they were letting him sleep. So when they went in there at 9 o'clock, he was already gone.
So you lost your mother-in-law. And then you lost your mother. And then you found out that your son had a tumor, and then later on found out it was cancer, and then y'all aggressively treated that, and then you lost your son.
And then 4 days later, my father-in-law stood up and died.
And he died on New Year's Eve?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Girl, the amount of emotions, because you didn't ever have time to process. Like, after your mom, you didn't have time to process.
Right.
And then after your son, you didn't have time to process.
Right.
You know, I mean, okay, I've had friends that committed suicide. I've had animals that I've had for 15 years. And I needed process times on animals and people that were friends or acquaintances, not children and parents and the death of them all consolidated. You know, a lot of people would turn to pretty dark places. They would turn to very, very dark places.
I drank a lot that first 3 months.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I have sent people cards before and said, "Here's $20 because life sucks."
Right.
Okay, because that's where they're at right then. Because
our family was not a big drinker. We didn't drink much until 2022.
Oh, yeah. I do not blame you at all.
Yeah, I don't remember much of 2022.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know what? Not only were you dealing with this, but you're dealing with the world. The world
they
was
kept going. Nobody stopped for us.
No, yeah, the whole world was having issues. You know, there's so much emotions and so much information and so much of everything. Mm-hmm. And then to have your world falling apart, but then you have to keep it together because you're mom.
Right.
You're mom, and you've got, you got a large family.
Right.
But
I had one of his nurses, and I became absolutely best friends. And she called me every single morning for the first 6 months. And she goes, "Liz, get out of bed today. Liz, take a shower today." And I would say, "No, I'm not going to. I'm just going to lay here and die today." And she said, "No, you're not."
Oh, my God. Okay, so first of all, the fact that it's a nurse. I mean, these nurses see people at their lowest of their low. Whenever we need help, we go to a hospital. And these people, I mean, they're literally angels on earth. You know, they get to see us and in the lowest parts of our life, kind of like law enforcement. Law enforcement see us at the pretty rough part of someone's life. Mm-hmm. And, they just don't. I want them to make all the money. I want them to have the best vacations. I want them to get the best gifts in the world, because literally our world is better because of nurses, law enforcement, EMTs, because they see this and they see a mom and they see what you're going through. And the fact that she called you and was like, "You've got to get out of bed," she knew exactly what you were going through.
Yeah. I said, "You're my angel." Yeah.
You know, people get into dark places, and you were, girl, if you weren't in a dark place, I don't know how you weren't, because like I'm in a dark place just hearing your story.
It's sad, isn't it?
It is so sad. But this is why whenever I met you, you know, and I didn't know anything about you, I was like, oh, here she's coming. Her daughter doesn't want to do chicks. Her daughter just wants to ride and be with you. And you know, I was like, okay, you know, I haven't had that happen. I was like, sure, I'm okay with that, you know, and I'm like, but this is why I love Chicks in the Sticks, because I get to meet these amazing people. So instead of staying in that dark place, that nurse said something to you. Is she the one that had lighted the fire in you?
No.
It was a different
Yeah,
person?
on my son's 1-year death anniversary, I had made a post and I said, I feel lost, not in the fact that I lost a child. I feel empty inside. I need to be doing something. And I don't think it's because I was so busy for the past 7 months. I just feel deep inside that there's something I should be doing. For the first time in my life, I feel like there's something else other than being a mom, and I don't know what it is.
So you had like a calling.
And I didn't know what it was. And 2 of my other friends got on that text and they said, Liz, you need to be a respiratory therapist. And I was like, I'm 50. Well, at that point I just turned 50. And I was like, I'm too old for anything. I can't do this. And that was December 28th. And on January 1st, I was enrolled in college.
December 28th. So the day your son's 1-year anniversary of his death, and you enrolled into college.
It wasn't January 1st. It was
right, but it's January.
Yeah.
January.
Because they told me, she goes, we're not back in the office yet, but when we get there, I had the first appointment for the first day they were back in the office that day.
And so now you're in college.
I've just finished my first semester of prereqs. I loved it. It was like just a bright light in my life.
Yeah.
I was just excited, all A's.
Yeah. And you know what? Being that homeschool mom and being like, oh, here's what I need you to learn. You know, you never had a dip from high school. You kept on learning, even though you didn't have a piece of paper for it. You know what I mean? And I know everybody puts a lot of importance on those pieces of paper in our life. You know, our wedding certificate, our graduation certificate, our college degrees, all that. But you didn't end up with a piece of paper, but you have helped children learn at all different levels. So now you're at college and you're doing well.
Right. That's what I told my anatomy teacher. I said, for so many years, I had all of these little bits and pieces, and you've just made so many connections in my life with what I've taught. And so yeah.
Tell me, what is the training that a respiratory therapist has to have? Like, you've got to, because you have not went to college. You are you're not ground zero. You've got the first step now taken, but what's the lineage of it?
Well, I still have 2 semesters of prereqs, and when I get accepted into the program in March of next year, I'm not really sure what I'm going to have to learn. I haven't looked into it that far.
But right now, so it's a 3-semester, it's kind of probably a fast track. Is it like a 3-semester?
It's through Ozark Technical Community College out of Springfield, but I'm taking it through at Lebanon, Missouri. And yeah, so I have a semester and summer semester, and then full time for fall and spring.
Okay. You know, so I needed people to hear this. I mean, because here's a woman that had tragedy, like not only hit her, but hit her 4 times in 1 year, and not a tragedy that you would ever expect, because is there cancer in your family?
No, not at all.
And then so tell me about Avery.
Avery was amazing. He was 2nd degree black belt. He paid for every one of his classes, and he passed his, he was the only one in his school who passed their black belt first try.
Okay.
He was amazing, and he was a pilot. He was 1 test away from having his own license. So,
you know, I know that he was good because the good die early, you know.
Right. He was people would come in, his nurses would, even those that didn't have him, would step into his room, and you could see them just take a breath. And they would talk to him for a moment, and they would smile, and they would walk out. And the notes that I received at his funeral was Avery was a light in that hospital.
Yeah.
Avery made a difference in my life. Avery showed us how we can do things differently. Because I would tell him, I'm like, what in the world are you doing? He's 21. He was in the pediatric department. Oh. And they didn't know how to treat a 21-year-old. And so we rocked their world and showed them, Avery did, showed them how to do things differently for an older child rather than a smaller child.
Yeah. And think about, okay, so your son going through this, your family going through this, but the fact that it has ignited this fire and this like passion in you, do you realize like how much compassion and how much love you're going to be able to give to other people that are in need of
it just
a respiratory,
gives me goosebumps.
I know,
because
of a
I'm
respiratory
scared
therapy.
to death I'm going to fail. But on the other hand, I just goosebumps up my future.
And you know what? That fear of failure is going to be what makes you catapult past everyone else. And your teachers are going to love you because you're not some young kid that wants to get into respiratory therapy to make money.
Right.
You are there because you are a child. You had to learn how to do everything for your child. And you're like, I want to do this. Right. I mean, you're going to give so much passion and motivation to all the people that are in classes with you.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope that I can.
You know, some of the young kids, I'm sure, that are in college with you are going to think that you're the instructor. Oh, my gosh. And there's so many young kids out there in college that need a parental guidance. I mean, and you're going to be like, okay, it's never too late. You know,
or they'll be my parental guidance. I don't know.
Well,
they'll be able to help me through.
I have no doubt that you will pass with flying colors and you'll get all sorts of things on your graduation gown. And then what a positive person for your family and your friends to see of how to go forward.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of people have a lot of guilt about going forward. You know, they feel... like, you know, there's like someone else doesn't get to go forward with you and they have guilt. You know, there's a lot of people's emotions are all over the world with all of that. But the fact that you're going forward and in a positive direction. And, you know, Avery sounds like he was just very motivated. I mean, you don't become a pilot and you don't become a 2nd-degree black belt. And you don't just have that positive vibe about you by not being a forward, progressive person. Mm-hmm. He would be proud of you.
I think so. I try. Someone said, take his best quality and grab that. And he was such a forgiving. People treated him really bad, and he always forgave them. And that is such a hard lesson for people, is to forgive. So that's what I'm taking from him.
Is to forgive.
Forgive people, yeah. And to fight. You know how hard it was for him? Everything that he had to do after his surgery was a fight. Mm-hmm. You know, he had to fight to stand up. He had to fight to take that first step with that walker. He had to fight, you know, for everything.
You know, people that... come from things not being easy, like yourself, are the ones that have the grit to go forward. And man, I just this is whenever I was like, I need to please do a podcast interview with me, because I know people need to hear your story. I have so many people in my life that theirs is way different than yours. They don't have the tragedy, but they do have where their kids graduated high school, or their kids had kids, so their grandchildren, and they needed them for babysitting, you know, but now those kids are in school and they're just like, what do I do? It's that same emptiness that you said that you had of like, who am I?
Oh, I've struggled with that so much, not just because of all the deaths, but, you know, I only have 2 children left at home, and my 18-year-old just graduated from high school. And I was like, who am I?
Yeah, who am I?
My son died, and I felt like a failure as a mother because that was my job. My job was to keep my kids healthy. My job was to keep my kids safe. Now, who am I if I failed at that?
Oh, my God.
And so my life is 100% different. I have bucket lists. If I want to do it, I'm going to go do it. I'm going to live my life to the fullest.
And please tell me that you do not feel like a failure. Have you went past
it's
that
an
yet?
everyday struggle.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those struggles that I think I will always struggle with.
Okay. I'm a horse trail riding facility owner, but I can tell you're not a failure.
Right.
You're not a
it's
failure.
in here.
It is. Oh, and you know what? I struggle with always trying to be good enough or to be, I never did get a lot of like, I'm proud of you, good job.
Right.
And that has kind of created a monster in me.
I know what you mean.
And I don't know how to turn it off, but I use it for positive. Like, I don't know how to stop succeeding. I don't know how to not take something and freaking run with it, because that was me trying to get approval.
Right.
And so that monster is still inside of me. But the fact that you feel like a failure as a mother,
God. We ate very healthy and clean. Mm-hmm. My son was active. We did everything. That was my goal, was no cancer. You eat healthy, you try to eat no pesticides, you clean your house with vinegar, right. You do all of this, and it still hits your home.
Yeah.
That's the part that I struggle with the most, is why does it have to hit, cancer? Cancer sucks.
Yeah. Cancer does suck. And, and it's awful to hear that sometimes it happens.
Right.
I mean, you can do everything right, and then everything still goes so wrong. But I'm here to say that you motivate me, and I see a lot of people. And for me to say that you motivate me and you push, this right here, I have a monster to attack about my own health. And like this year, I'm trying to get my own health better. And I don't know, like I need to step up. You stepped up.
Right. And it's one thing I want my other children to see that. I want to see them. I want them to see me, is what I'm trying to say, pushing through all of this and doing something better. My Bethany is an amazing young lady, but she's not in nursing school anymore because of what she saw, because she helped me take care of Avery.
Yeah.
And I want her to see that she can do this.
Yeah.
I want her to tell her friends. I just want it to be, big.
Yeah. Well, sometimes time will fix that. And your daughter is in her early 20s.
Yeah.
And you are proof that it doesn't matter what age. So if she has a little bit of a lull, that's what she needed. That is what she needed. And it's okay to kind of
That's what I tell her. I said,
life on pause.
I don't care what age.
Yeah. It could be just hopefully it's before 51.
That's what I did. I told her the other night, I said, just do it before in your 50s so you don't have only 10, 20 years of it.
Yeah, but man, think about the lives you're going to touch in that 10 to 20 years because your heart's pure about it.
Yeah, it's exciting. I don't know where I'll be or what I'll do with it.
But I know you're going to do the heck out of it,
I hope so. I am going to.
And I love that you're like, I am. I have
to. There's so much negative in here that I can't control, but I can control what comes out of here. What comes out of my mouth, I can control. And what comes out of my mouth goes into my head.
Well, and you know what? You know how many people, that right there, whenever, oh my gosh, so my mom will probably not listen to this podcast, so it's okay. My mom tells me, she says she's dumb all the time.
Right.
She's dumb. And I was like, Mom, please stop. I was like, because you're saying it, you're hearing it, you're processing it, you're thinking it. I was like, man, you're getting it like 3 or 4 times. No one in your life calls you dumb except for yourself.
Correct.
And by the time you're processing it, it's equal to like 4 people saying it. I was like, please stop with the negative chatter. I mean, you have got to stop saying it, and then hopefully you can stop thinking it.
Right. That was my problem when I started school this semester. I said, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And I got a 50 on my first quiz, and I'm like bawling. And my husband says, stop, because you can.
Yeah.
And so I started saying, I can. And I got an 89 on my final.
That's amazing.
So I ended with an A. It was right at the point. It was 89.9, but I ended with an A.
That's amazing. And you know what? If any people have heard the other podcasts on this, interviews on here, I talk about one of the classes that was really hard for me because I'm the first person in my immediate family to finish college. My mom took like 1 or 2 college classes at a community college, but I have a degree in biology, a minor in physics, a degree in criminal justice, and my master's in teaching. But that took 10 years of my life, okay? Mm-hmm. And once again, you know how I told you I'm addicted to chugga going forward? But one of those college tests, there was organic chemistry 2. And that's an evil wench that lives in colleges that people have to take. Girl, the first test in there, I thought the instructor messed up on the grade because it had a 9. Okay? I made a 9%. I was like, hey, you forgot the second number.
Oh, no.
And then I was like, well, maybe you forgot the first number. No, it was a 1 digit. I mean, I was like, whoa, I actually thought I did well. Talk about being humbled. Like, I didn't even know how to chew that up in my head. I was like, what? Yeah. Can you really make a 9% on the test? Like, I thought people would just put their name on something and make something,
right.
But like, no, I understand. So you made a 50. Imagine a 9.
No, oh, man.
Yeah. Made me reconsider decisions. I
right.
was like, because I was smart in high school. Okay. Mm-hmm. But then college rocked my world. And that was, it was
right.
sink or swim, and I was sinking. So I had
right.
to learn how to, like, push myself to the top, okay, with, like, my last breath. I actually failed that class, and I had to retake it. I actually failed that class twice. That class,
no, it kicked your butt.
It was so difficult, but I had to have that class to graduate. The second time I took it, I really messed up because the instructor that taught the class was the one that wrote the book. He couldn't bring it back down. I was at ground zero, okay? Mm-hmm. I was below ground zero, okay? I was like sub-ground. And it was just really difficult for me. But I took it for a third time, and I'm like, good Lord, please.
Just let me pass it.
I was a prisoner to organic chemistry too. But I did pass that class, but it took me 3 times. It made a lasting impression on me, okay? Mm-hmm. So
keep trying,
Well, I hope that you take that story because, like, people look at me and they're like, oh, you're educated and all that. And I'm like, it was not easy. It was horrible. And it was hard.
I say if I don't pass, I'm not doing a second chance. Yeah. Because I can at least look back and say, I tried.
Right.
Because I do think I might be too old to do a second chance.
No, I already know you're not. I'm not listening to it.
There's a whole nother story. My brother was in college. He was 39 years old. He had 1 class left, and he died of a massive heart attack. Oh. That was 17 years ago. So I'm like, that last semester, I'm going to be like, oh, don't die. Oh, just make it through this. And if I die, I'm going to go back and haunt everybody.
Oh, my gosh. Well, Liz, I literally want to keep up with your story, and I hope you come back to another Chicks in the Sticks.
Oh, it was so great, depending on when it is, because my summer school starts next June.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. You might have to be one of our weekend warriors. We have the ones that are Friday, Saturday, Sundays, but it'll just have to be, college first right now. I mean, that's what your 2 youngest kiddos are going from being homeschooled to private school.
Which is going to be how are we going to get up at 8 o'clock and have the kids in town by 8:15? You know, we're 20 minutes from town. My husband's like, that's on you. I'm like, dream on. You're going to be doing that too.
Well, and it's, yeah, I mean, like my husband and I, we've owned this horse trail riding facility now for 9 years, right? And we're like, I don't know if I can go back to working for someone else. Like, if I had to work, I mean, like, it would just be a big change because I've gotten used to the freedom.
Right.
And I love the freedom of working for myself. There's a lot of stress, but ultimately that freedom is there if I needed it. So with homeschool allows freedom. It allows for you to see what your kids are interested in and explore that.
We've taken week-long trips to campsites, and we've done our school. We went on a trail ride, come back. We do our school. We go on a trail ride, come back, make supper. And so that's
beautiful. What a beautiful way to educate.
We're done with that, though, you know?
Yeah.
And my boys, during the day, they'd see Bethany out there riding a horse. Next thing I know, the kids were gone out riding horses. I'm like, we have to do school.
All right. So Liz, you're on Facebook. You're on
yes,
Facebook.
I am.
Yeah, and then you're in our Chicks in the Sticks community. So if anyone hears that's in, you have to get into the community. You have to have attended a group. So I'm going to share this in there also because I know everybody's like going to be like, you're a good mother and you can do it. You
can be my cheerleaders.
Yes.
I've got a test coming up. Help me.
All right. Well, hey, thank you everyone for tuning in to Big Boss Mare with Brandy Von Holten.